Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I know I say this every time, but number one, thank you for being here and thank you for listening. I'm just so honored that you spend your time here. And I don't say it all the time because it's a habit. I say it all the time because it's true. This is my favorite thing to do. Having these conversations is so life-giving, and knowing that you're going to listen is unbelievable to me. And knowing that you'll find a nugget in there to the 50 nuggets that I found is just, it's such a gift. So thank you. Thank you for being here. The other thing I say all the time is I loved this conversation so much. And wow, I think you are really going to love meeting Jessie-Sierra Ross. A little bit about her amazing accomplishments and her amazing self. Jessie-Sierra Ross is the creator of Straight to the Hips, Baby. She's a former professional ballerina turned food, cocktail, and home entertaining specialist. A born and bred Bostonian, Jessie traded in her pointe shoes for an apron and has never looked back. Known for her step-by-step recipes, light and bright, lush minimalism photography style, and playful personality, Jessie brings an easy elegance to her work. Currently based in the Berkshires of Massachusetts, Jessie-Sierra shares her delicious recipes and home entertaining tips via her blog, straighttothe-hipsbaby.com. She can also be found in print and on TV, collaborating with several New England NBC stations and the BloomTV Network. Jessie's passionate about giving back to the creator community and established the Food Blog School on Clubhouse with over 2,000 members in the food blogging and photography industries. She is helping to create connections and education opportunities to the greater food creator niche. We are linking all the ways to find this incredible human down in the show notes. Please follow her. Please see what she's up to. And please know that you will be hearing a lot more from her because I intend on staying in her orbit for a really long time. So sit back and relax and enjoy this fabulous conversation with Jessie-Sierra. Jessie, it is a wonder that this is our first meeting because I feel like in so many ways we are the same person. And I'm super excited to have you here and to discover how we are alike even more as our conversation unfolds. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Wendy. And yes, I feel like we're kindred spirits in the best of Anna Green Gables sense.
Yes, absolutely. No depths of despair here.
No.
We are all joy. So we have been connected through my friend Sylvie Mazerol, who was our photographer that joined me in France this year. So I interviewed her a few weeks ago for the podcast. So for our listeners, you all know Sylvie and you've seen her beautiful work as you followed our trip to France and the cookbook project and all those good things. So what I know about you, Jessie, is that you love a good cocktail And that's another thing that bonds us together. And so I would just love to hear more about you and how you are saying yes to yourself in this season.
Oh, this is such a beautiful question. And I have to, if I had a cocktail in hand, I'd say cheers to you and cheers to Sylvie, who is just a beautiful spirit in and out. So happy to connect here and to share more. But yeah, I mean, so I run a food and drink and lifestyle blog called Straight to the Hips Baby.
Love it.
And as a former professional ballerina, I bring an eye for lush detail and big pictures and drama, but also I come from a place of what I hope is beauty, of heart, of creating these moments in time for my readers, for my students, or for those who are watching me on television, where they can just turn the world off for a moment, just for a moment. And for whatever time they're with me, they can just take in that information, take in that stimulus, and be in that moment of beauty. But I started the blog about, goodness, 10 years ago. And I fully transitioned to full-time blogging and TV work about 2 years ago with a revamp, redesign right before the COVID pandemic came in. So we didn't know what we were getting into. But you know, during the pandemic, we saw a surge of interest in not only cooking, but as you mentioned, cocktails, because suddenly we couldn't go out to our favorite restaurants and bars and, you know, ask the bartender for a gin and tonic. And then people started to get bored of those gin and tonics and they dived into mixology. So I am known not only for my light and bright photography with floral elements, but cocktails. It's a passion of mine to create layered, full-bodied cocktails that are not so much spirit forward, as in sometimes you go to a bar and they'll give you a really deep pour to make you feel like you have your money's worth. And yes, you did, but did you get your flavors worth? So in my mind, it's about balance. So I love a floral cocktail. I love a deep, rich bourbon sour with cinnamon and spice. I run the gamut of flavors. But what's important to me is that I allow the reader or the viewer to feel empowered, that they too can do this at home because I'm self-taught. This has been a journey from ballerina and point shoes and tutus to everything beautiful about sugar and butter and cocktails.
We are the same person. Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm like should have my hands over my mouth so that I don't interrupt you, because I just wanted to say, yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Exactly.
Yes, please.
Exactly.
Similarly, during the pandemic, I turned to the cocktail shaker. I was trying to figure out what to do with this expansive garden that we had planted when we thought people would be coming to enjoy barn dinners or dinner parties or anything here. And I needed to respond to what was happening and that no one could come over. So I started a little CSA and I had these farm boxes and I was putting vegetables in and flowers and eggs and just all the bounty of this property. And then I received for my birthday this gorgeous cocktail book called The Garden Cocktail. It's by Ed Lovelace. He owns a restaurant in Australia, and it was magic. And I thought, oh, like you, since nobody can go out for drinks, why don't I just start delivering these cocktail kits along with my farm box? And so I thought, oh, I'm already going live on Instagram on Fridays with a favorite something. I called it Favorite Fridays, and I had a favorite recipe or a favorite cookbook or a favorite cooking tool. And then thought, well, I'm already making this drink. I'll just show whatever garden inspired craft cocktail I'm delivering. That's what I'll do. So I stood in the garden and made a blueberry gin smash with our blueberries and our purple basil.
Delicious.
And I just harvested as I was doing my live and shaking it up out there. And I was like, I've arrived. Like, this is so good.
I love that it's a pivot.
Yes. And my commute was arm's length of beautiful herbs and fruit. And it's been a cocktail every single Friday since. And they are inspired by whatever's growing on the property, and in the winter months, whatever's growing on other people's property, because nothing's growing here. But it is so fun. And I love how those things find us, and we just keep going until
exactly.
we get the next hit of, oh, that sounds fun. Let's come over here. You mentioned before we hit record that you said you're kind of like a squirrel like that. And you're like, oh, what's over here? What's over here? And a squirrel, I think, makes it sound like that's not the reasonable thing to do, that it's just more sensory motivated. But I think that's so beautiful. I think I would call that listening to your body, listening to your intuition of what is beautiful over here and what is the next right thing. And now I can't even stop talking. I have one more thing I want to say, and then I want to hear from you. But as a ballerina, which I have a 9-year-old, and she's 8, she'll be 9 in a couple weeks. She wanted a red tutu and red ballet slippers from Santa, and he delivered. So there's been a lot of twirling around here, and it's beautiful. And we have a long tradition of the nutcracker, etc. And all I'm trying to say is this: there is a beautiful story told with no words, and that is what I see you continuing to do, that you've just created this gorgeous narrative that is so inviting, that is so beautiful to participate in, whether it's just visually or actually somebody is making the thing that you are so generously and beautifully educating them on how to make. And it's just such a through line from what you used to do to what you're doing now. It's not all over the place. It's completely in alignment, and this graceful unfolding of what your foundational years laid for you to build this new beautiful iteration on.
That was beautiful. And I'm so heartened that is apparent. We create these projects, we create this work for ourselves because we're passionate, and we want to funnel that creativity, that energy, that personal point of view in whatever subject we're in. And when you have someone else acknowledge it and see it for what it is, that's a true gift. So I have to give you flowers for that.
I receive your flowers, and I know that's what you give.
It's very true. And so I started dancing when I was 5 years old, and I did it because I come from a family of artists and creators and educators, and I always loved moving to music. I would lose myself, but also I was a terribly shy young girl. I had a speech impediment, a stutter, and social anxiety, and I used to hide behind my mother. I was painfully shy, but in the studio, there was a freedom because I didn't have to talk. All I had to do was let my body and the music talk for me. And I found so much beauty, but more so freedom in that space between notes, that I could talk, I could create, I could mold space, I could mold time, I could create visions from, whether it was from my own choreography or from others' interpretations, that gave such pleasure. And again, that stillness in time for that, 2 hours of that ballet performance, or that 5-minute solo that I'm on stage that I've worked months on, for that brief 5-minute period, that audience and we have a very intimate conversation. I'm allowing them to see what I feel and what I create, and I get energy back from that. And I want to give that through my work now as a food and lifestyle blogger and TV personality, because I think having that moment of where you forget the world is so important in this day and age, where we're constantly being bombarded by so much, and all of it important. All of it, whether it's the stressful, the happy, the serious, the sad, the joyful, it's a lot to take in all the time. So to have that pause and to get in touch with our senses is so amazing. And I would say that my time in the studio definitely informed my personal style. As much as it looks effortless, see, there's that speech impediment. I did overcome it. Now you can't get me to stop talking.
You're just listening to you is like a beautiful dance.
Oh, thank you.
Honestly, like
I enjoy
I'm a
connecting.
total super fan, and I didn't know you before, so I didn't start by
I love it.
fangirling, but every second with you, I just want more. So thank you.
Yay! It's my absolute pleasure to connect with others who are of the same mind, or to inspire others who may be listening and wondering, how do you do this? Because I come at everything with a growth mindset. It's about learning. My mother, when I was growing up, always said, have a plan B. And in my mind, that meant don't um, don't block yourself to one item. So when I had my dancing career, I started learning how to create choreography and how to teach and pedagogy. When my dance career started to wind down, I started teaching and coaching and choreographing for musical theater and for dance companies. When I started pivoting away from that to starting a family in a brand new area, because I'm from Boston, which was this like hectic city life, run around, and suddenly I was transplanted to the Berkshires, which is very much not hectic.
Not hectic at all.
Not at all, but it is stunning. And suddenly I found myself in this area that was just so fertile for something. And I realized very quickly my access to farms, to dairies, to organic growers, to artisans. I could do something really special out here. And I always had a passion for cooking and creating drink. I had time and I needed to have an outlet, because by that point, when I started the blog, I had 2 young children, baby babble in both ears. I was going a little nuts. I'll be frank. I love my children, but I needed a project, because being a ballet dancer, where you spend at minimum 8 hours during your day, either practicing, performing, or rehearsing, to suddenly not have that project, that focus, to have repetition, I needed that. And so when I transitioned to food and beverage, to photography and styling, I wanted to create recipes that people could replicate, that were approachable, that were beautiful, again, from the element of the stage and theater and imagination, because artists never grow up. We're always in touch with our imagination. If you asked me if I wanted to play, Princess in the Dragon, or the Big Bad Wolf in, Little Red Riding Hood, I'd be down for it. I'd do it. I'd get in full character, lickety split. But it's about creating something that looks effortless. Again, I'll stop using that word. That looks easy.
It's beautiful.
And is easy when you have the right tools in your toolkit. So that's super important. That's the repetition of dance. That's the powerful framework that I come from, and that I hope will give my readers the same framework, so that once they master that recipe, they can move on to the next one. And I've had readers get in touch with me. They've cooked everything in my repertoire, like everything, because with each recipe, they're like, oh, macarons. I conquered macarons. Who conquers macarons? It took me 18 times to conquer macarons.
Right?
Giant cinnamon rolls, or cocktails where, they used to just have a vodka spritz. It's about building that confidence.
Yes. Which mastery comes from repetition.
Exactly. Yep,
I
absolutely.
love that so much. And everything is so magical. I love that you found yourself in the Berkshires. I really enjoyed hearing how you found yourself there. But what I know about it, when I was moving to New England, it was my desire to have a bed and breakfast. And as the move and purchase got closer, it became known that that was not the desire of my husband.
Mhm.
So we decided to expand our search for a property that I could still do events and weddings at, but not have the day-to-day of a bed and breakfast. He has since moved on to a life that's in alignment for him. And I have since just received approval from the town to have a bed and breakfast here in my house. So
congratulations.
All things come back. But why I'm saying all of that is that I did spend quite a bit of time in the Berkshires looking for a property there. And I landed in Great Barrington and had a beautiful property in mind before our plans changed. And I love the appreciation and the quantity of performing arts venues and opportunities in that space, because there are a lot of small towns in New England that you could have landed in that might not have had an appreciation for your background as much as the place where you have landed.
Oh, totally. I mean, the Berkshires has a long history of being connected to the arts, even, starting with artist retreats back in the late 1800s. Dancers and choreographers came out this way because of the open space, but also the location was lovely for those hoping to escape New York City during the summer or in Boston. And I would say the same for the food scene. For a period of time, it was a bursting food scene, and then it died down a bit with every, rise and fall. There's always going to be that fall, but now it's just, blooming. And it's stunning to see not only local sort of celebrity chefs, our homegrown masterminds create gorgeous food with local produce, seasonality in mind, and also featuring local product beyond the basics of, your vegetable, your dairy, but also spirits. They're taking local spirits, they're taking locally grown proteins, they're really making something out of it. But also, I think the greater Northeast is seeing the value of this area as a place to grow, to learn, to experiment. And it's not so close quarters. You're not dealing with so many other elements like budgeting and rents and, making sure you get your tables in and all that stuff, because here's less pressure. You're going to be smaller out here by definition, but there's a freedom there. And it's such a creative place to be at this moment. And I'm grateful to be here, because I don't think if I were in Boston that I would have this connection with other chefs in this area. I can walk into a restaurant and they know me, and not just, because I run a social media, but they know me and I can talk to them, or I can go up to a bartender or a mixologist and say, hey, what are you making back there? And they'll give me taste and we'll talk. It's a delightful time to be in the food scene. It's a wonderful time to be, the receiver of all those great gifts too, because the creativity is boundless right now. And I think with the pandemic and people changing and pivoting, we've all had to have that pivot. And circling back to what we started with, I think everyone here who is a creator who has a passion, you have a choice. You have a choice to either stop, freeze, get stuck, because it was a terrible time. I had COVID during the first wave. It was terrible. I lost all my sense of taste and smell for 6 months. Which, as a foodie, both professionally and privately, it was a nightmare. I didn't know if my business could go forward. Luckily, it came back for the most part. But I will say the time when I drank red wine and it tasted like cinnamon hot candies, I was frightened.
That is a huge problem.
It's a huge problem. But, we have a choice. We can go forward and with that growth mindset, with that curiosity, pivot as you did to what can I do that's still in line, what's in alignment with my priorities, my creativity, that still helps others. And I did the same thing. I could have stopped, gigs dried up, budgets for collaborations were out the window. I was blogging, but, people were reading, but there wasn't a lot of income coming in. And that's when TV started popping up, doing Zooms all around the country on these morning chat shows, getting engaged with BloomTV for me as a creator. It was a time of great anxiety, but a moment of, yes, I will try this, because you know what else do I have going on? And it led to an adventurous mind, an adventurous time.
Yes, I found that even though everything was shut down, it opened up such creative community for me and for anyone else who, as you mentioned, made a decision that was in alignment for them. And exactly. it's been amazing, and it changed everything in a positive way for me. There was no absolutely. More geographical boundary for who could interact with what was happening at the Phineas Wright House. So that's been a really wonderful benefit that has come out of that time. Now, you mentioned BloomTV. I've heard a little bit about this from the Extraordinary Woman podcast, Sherry Farmel. And she interviewed the woman who founded it, I believe. So I would love to hear about your connection and what how you found each other.
It's a marvelous story, and it ties directly with what we were just talking about, broadening our horizons, our borders, and engaging with our audiences in new ways during the pandemic, because we were forced to shift the way we did business. So just as a background, BloomTV Network is a floral focused streaming television platform, and it covers not just, what you would think is floral design or gardening, but also environmental studies, crafting with flowers, cooking with flowers, floral and herbal medicine, ways to connect yourself with those who also have a passion for nature, but also the greater good, the sort of showcasing of the environment and the planet. And so during my time in COVID, it was also a tough period for me personally because my husband was diagnosed with cancer. Luckily, he's fine and good, but we
Okay.
were going through surgeries and treatments and long spells in the middle of COVID, in the middle of homeschooling 3 children, in the middle of trying to keep everyone healthy, not only for their sakes, but for my husband's sake. It was highly stressful, and I found myself kind of getting lost. There wasn't time to work. There wasn't time, mental space to work because I was so wrapped up in just trying to keep everyone afloat. So I like to say that, I repeated the 3rd grade with my kids because I was their teacher. I had to sit there through every class. But one of the things that I did personally was I found this app called Clubhouse, and it's a social audio app, and it made sure that my mind didn't turn to oatmeal during this time. It's sort of like going to university. So I could show up. It didn't matter what I looked like because there's no video. I could listen in to experts. I could talk to chefs all across the world. I listened in with physicians on COVID, on politics, on food and drink, environmentalists. And I connected with a whole wide variety of people, and I loved it, loved it. It saved me during that time. And I even opened up my own club called the Food Blog School. But what happened is I connected in one of these rooms, in one of these clubs, which had like 2,000 people in it, with Monica's vice president at BloomTV. He heard me speak. I was on a panel talking about, I can't even remember what I was doing. And he said, "Hey, you seem interesting." You seem to like flowers, which I do. I have a passion for flowers and gardening and using herbs and fresh ingredients in my work. It's paramount for me. Let's talk. And we had this amazing conversation, and our viewpoints aligned. And I became one of the first creators on BloomTV as an experiment. They asked, "Would you mind creating some food, drink, and lifestyle content for us?" And I said, "Absolutely. I'm going to take that chance." I call it planting seeds. I like to plant seeds in a lot of different places, and you see what blooms. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they just stay there, but other times they come shooting right up. And it was an amazing opportunity for me not only to work with new people and to learn from them, but also to push myself a bit, because by this point, my husband was feeling well, and we worked together as a team, and it became a project for us to do. So we learned how to film. We learned how to edit. We learned how to do basic sound editing. Learn that you need a mic if you're going to be really doing this, how to cut and plan and storyboard and shoot for a television audience versus shooting photos for a blogging audience, because they're 2 different beasts. And it started. So I have several episodes streaming right now on BloomTV. I am a BloomTV expert. And I recently had several of my shows shown on PBS 12 in Colorado via BloomTV. So that was super exciting. And it's all about, at this time, about, again, saying yes. Or I had a mantra for years of why not? Because I needed to push myself. I needed to get out of that bubble of, getting bogged down. And so I started saying yes. I said yes to BloomTV. I said yes to NBC for their affiliate channels to create TV food segments. And now that's part of my, daily sort of trip. I do something like that all the time. I love it. I love interacting, and the performance aspect obviously appeals to me.
So fun.
It's so fun. I am called One Take Jessie because
I'm One Take Wendy.
Hey,
we are the same person.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is so fun.
I love doing live TV, and if something goes wrong, that performer background, I'm like, okay, cool, we're gonna keep going. And I tell people, like, if you want me to tap dance or spin around, I can do that too. And that's a facet of this business that I am growing. I hope to have one of my goals. I like to dream big, right?
Me too.
Is yeah, it's like, yeah. I mean, you have
Of
to.
course you
I dream
do.
big, and part of it is, if you don't dream big for yourself, who's going to do it for you?
100%.
So I want a show, some way, shape, or form. I would like a show, and I'm
You'll
working
never
towards
believe
that.
this, but me too.
Yeah. See, I'll have you on. Deal?
I would
You have
love
me
to be
on?
on your
Here,
show.
virtual shake.
Perfect. I can't
Yeah,
wait
I
for
mean,
our show.
yeah, because that's my thing is that um, it's a broader platform to reach people and to showcase so much. And my real passion is to also highlight other creators because I think there's so many times where you can have a fabulous creator, an artist, a planner, a cook, a mixologist, but they sometimes social media or the entertainment business can be like waving your arms on a desert island. Who's going to see you? And so if you can have someone kind of bring you along together or to give you that shot, and I felt that way when I was still in professional dance, it was always waiting for that shot. If there's a way to help our compatriots, I want to do it. So yeah, dreaming big, I want a show. I want that cookbook. I did a pitch recently just for funsies, just to say, I did this
Right?
and get over that fear. Will it
Right.
be accepted? Who knows? It doesn't matter. Did it.
Right.
Now I can go on
Right.
to the next one. And
I
I think it's so
feel
important.
yes, 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 yes. And I love how you talked about planting seeds. And I really equate all of our yeses are just planting a seed and
Mhm.
taking this huge responsibility off of ourselves for if we make a mistake. Of
Mhm.
course, we're going to make a mistake. And guess what? If you try a lot of things, you will make a lot of mistakes. And
Mhm.
that's how you know what to keep planting and
Mhm.
what to dig up. And some things you need to just, pour a slab over. Like that is just
Exactly.
not fertile ground. It's not happening there, but you don't know until you try it. And just creating a safe environment in this growth mindset that you're working from, that I'm working from, that we know that perfect is the enemy of good.
Mhm.
And we are working toward what is delighting us and inviting others into that process, into just experiencing it, into a permission and a space where they can discover what their yes is. And then
Mhm.
also, as you mentioned, highlighting them so that more people can find out that they also resonate with what those people are doing. And I just
Exactly.
think it's so beautiful. And it's such a gorgeous representation of rising tides raise all ships.
Exactly. I think that I've always been this way. People used to describe me as headstrong as a young lady. And during those days, because I'm of a certain generation, headstrong was a negative.
Yes.
And I never lost that. I'm a 40 something woman who grew up in that Gen X, Gen Y environment where women were not necessarily powerful
Mhm.
or allowed to be powerful. And I think, as you mentioned, all boats rise with the tide. I think that particularly for us, we have a responsibility to start changing those patterns, to break those patterns. Our mothers may have started to break those patterns, and our, men and women who were of the same mindset were, but we are now in a position to do that. And at every opportunity, I try, and it doesn't matter if you're someone who's super well established in your field, but you're not finding your rise. I'm going to help you. Someone who's just starting out, has quality work, doesn't quite know what they're doing yet in the social media world or the filming world. I'm going to help you as best I can. And if I can't help you, I'm going to connect you to people who can.
Right.
Because along this journey, I have found so many other creatives in all fields who are there. They're just willing and waiting to help. And as you were speaking about, not negative mindset, but like how things may not work when you plant seeds and they don't come up. We have to get out of this failure mentality. It's never a failure. I have a good friend who's a photographer and coach, Shelley Waldman, who I met via Clubhouse, and she's one of my great creator friends. Um, she says that, there's no such thing as failure. You're just going to learn from it and take from it and go. And that sometimes in this creator life, particularly, you're going to get a lot of no's. And that's true in the arts as well. You are going to get more no's than yeses, and it's up to you to create that strong iron core, that iron spine of knowing who you are, what you're doing, and what you do is of value. You just have to find the audience or the platform, and it can be a large platform, a small platform, but if you are truly passionate about your work, that's going to bring you so much fulfillment. It's not,
Yes.
making $1 zillion and getting an agent and making it big and names and lights and all that stuff that we want in musical theater or in dance.
Sure.
It's about finding that right vibration of, this brings me a lot of fulfillment, and I'm happy to share with others who find fulfillment in it.
Yes, absolutely. And, just going back to the seed analogy, it requires water and sunshine.
Mhm.
So if you have a dream, whether it's big or small, you need to foster its growth. We need
Mhm.
to give it water and sunshine. We need to give it space. I plan on and I desire to host experiences here at the Phineas Wright House that are just called Space to Dream. And
Mhm.
for 2 days, day one is just holding space for yourself and what that desire is, and using your imagination and your intuition and listening to what brings you joy, and allowing yourself to be in, like you said, in that vibration of that thing that you want. And then day
Mhm.
two is, let's map out some ways to implement that dream.
Mhm.
Because so many times in my life, I had a big dream, whether it was living in California my whole life, but wanting to be in New England, or wanting to be a mom. That was a 24-year journey to become a
Mhm.
parent.
Mhm.
And I would only allow myself to dream about the thing I wanted for 30 seconds at a time.
Mhm.
And then I would just shut it down and say, okay, let's just put that away now, because I want to be kind to my heart. And I don't want to live in a dream world or whatever. And that was just, that's not the way to grow your dream. It's the way to starve your dream. And I just want to provide opportunities for water and sunshine for these seeds to grow.
And I think that's a really magical sort of gift that you'll give people, because I often think that we used to say time and place a lot of the times in the arts. If you hit that great audition with the great director, you'll get hired. And other times you're not the right fit yet. And it's yet. It's
Correct.
about plugging along. It's about going forward. I, again, very headstrong, very type A, and I go get them. I go get them. But with that, you have to learn patience.
Mhm.
And that has been a huge lesson for me, is knowing, well, I've only been blogging for 2 years. No, you can't get on TV yet, Jess. You got to, work your way, find the tools that you can cultivate now that will make you more successful later. And that was something that was very important during the pandemic time, when business was pretty much frozen, was, well, what can I do to help foster and feed the ground, fertilize the ground for these seeds to grow? Okay, I'm going to make connections with other artists and learn. Again, I stress, underline, learn. I'm going to create opportunities for others to come up and be acknowledged and learn. Cool. I'm going to
Right?
figure out how to film. I'm going to figure out new tools, and dream. I am going to dream, because figure out what I want and how am I going to get there. If I fail, that's okay. But
It's
it's
feedback.
like you said, it's, if you don't try, you're going to stifle so much joy in your life. And joy, there's always a little tinge of I don't know, aggravation or pain, but that's part of the package.
Right.
Like, yeah, you may have some setbacks, but you're still pretty joyful about getting there.
Right. And this, just back to the seed, it's pushing through the soil. There's friction, there's
Mhm.
effort, don't they say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success? So you have
Yes,
to,
yes,
right?
that's very true.
You're putting this time in, you're failing, but you're using that as feedback. You are constantly moving, not hustling, like, staying in alignment and listening to what feels right. Because I think, you know, A queen has the right to change her mind. So whatever you were dreaming about, you're allowed to change your dream because things change, circumstances change, you evolve. But being in the habit of holding space for yourself, of holding space for your dream, of giving it water and sunshine and seeing what grows. And like you said, with the plan B, being open to it not being a peony when it blooms. It could be a tulip. It could be a dahlia. You don't know, but just hang in there with it and it will be what's right for you.
Yes. And I think there was, the right thing will find you. The right opportunity will find you.
And what is meant for you, you will not miss out on.
Exactly. And it's the process of learning on this path. There's been, I tell my kids when they start asking, because they're old enough now to start asking questions about how I got to this position as a mama, as a Berkshire mama, as a food and drink blogger. And I start to tell them, like, it's a long and winding road full of plan Bs. It's about being flexible. It's about, fulfilling your responsibilities without taking too much away. And that's a hard lesson for so many of us. I certainly fell into that trap of giving all of that energy away and outward to good people, to good reasons, for the right reasons. But when you go back and you start centering yourself again and planting those seeds, you can still be doing other things at the same time while those seeds are gestating and rooting up. I think that it's so important that we again keep that growth mindset, keep the flexibility, keep the idea that we have a voice in this world, and take chances. We need to take chances. And so many of us, and I don't mean, go skydiving. I mean, like, if someone says, hey, do you want an article done on you in the local paper? You're worth it. Do it.
Yes.
Just do it. Just see what happens, and see if nothing happens, that's fine. But now you have something to show. You have something to build on. And I think that's something that we need to, as creators, constantly remind ourselves, is that it's about building one on top of the other. And I know this is a podcast and I am talking with my hands, but but building one on top of the other, and doing what feels right. And if it doesn't feel right to you, don't do it.
100%.
You can say no.
Yes, you can. That is
that's a hard lesson.
That's an answer. No is an answer. Yes.
And that's a tough one.
Yep. Being in the practice of checking in with yourself, of centering in, as you said, realizing that no one's sitting around thinking about ways to make your life better. So if that's something that you desire, that's something that you need to do. So allowing yourself to dream, not apologizing for your dreams being big, and absolutely not thinking that you are in charge of the how this dream is going to come to fruition. I am a woman of faith, and I believe that these dreams that are in my heart, that God put them there, and that He is not mean, and that if these dreams are in me, these dreams are for me. And the how is not my responsibility, but there is still action. There is the building on top of each other. Like you said, there is the next right thing. Is having this conversation getting me any closer to my barn being renovated, which will happen and will include a commercial kitchen and will have guest chefs come in. So
Amazing.
You know what? Yeah, this conversation is absolutely in support of my big dreams. And I don't know how that's going to happen. I just know that it is going to happen, and I'm available for whatever beautiful way the universe provides the fruition of that dream.
Love it. Yeah. It's just being open to the event, the experience, the opportunity. And once you start opening yourself up to that, it really does come through. And sometimes it's just as simple as a change of perspective.
Which is a decision, right?
Agreed.
So being ready is not a feeling, it's a decision.
Totally agree. Yes, absolutely.
I'm so excited. And I'm so excited for your big plans and your big dreams. And I think they're beautiful.
Thank you. I'm excited to go after it
Yes.
and and have that it's a beautiful time of life, I'll say. To be able to do that, to feel, when you mentioned it takes 10 years to hit it big, it's taken 10 years of learning to get to a point where I personally feel like this is achievable. Do I have everything in that toolkit? No. I'm still learning. I'll never be done. I'll never have everything. But I think that that's a positive, because it keeps you sort of like clay. You can change, adapt, be remolded, and take everything in. But big dreams, yeah, I love the idea of what you're doing. I'm just dreaming about them. Like, ah.
And I love the
I'm
idea
like,
of what you're doing.
if I can ever come in and do a tablescape,
100%. And
I would love that. Oh my
it's a bit
God.
of a drive. It's not that far of a drive, but it's a bit of a drive. So you should, of course, spend the night and stay
Yeah.
in the bed and
All my
breakfast.
cocktails.
It's so lovely, right? It's so great. So if you would indulge me, I would love to tell you my big dream.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a barn, and the house was built in 1785. I'm not really sure when the barn was built. It's definitely pre-Civil War. And it's beautiful and I love it. And when I first saw it growing up in Southern California and wanting to move to New England, it didn't take a lot to woo me because I just think everything is beautiful here. And I remember distinctly the realtor rolling open the big door and just seeing this expanse of beauty and history and junk everywhere and a canoe in the rafters, and there were birds making a nest in the canoe, and I was like, oh, I'll take it. I'm so excited to be here. This is unbelievable. And for many years, I loved it just the way that it was, and I didn't want to change anything. And then I made a decision. And I decided by spending time in that beautiful space, and I refer to her as she, she's ready. She's ready to be celebrated for her historical attributes, and she's ready to be repaired and restored for the next iteration of her life. Again, this is how you know I'm not lying.
It's a marvelous project. It's a marvelous thing.
Thank you. In the renovation, it will include a commercial kitchen so that I can create fabulous things. I can host barn dinners, but also for local home bakers in our town. There is no opportunity to have a residential kitchen certified commercial. And there's not a willingness to engage in any imaginative solutions there. So I would like to be a part of that solution. I would love to have space that people that want their home-based baking businesses to be able to sell what beautiful things they're creating. I want to rent them commercial kitchen space.
What a beautiful thing. That's gorgeous. I love that idea. I love the multifaceted sort of use of that space. And what a great way to honor that barn. She's going to be in great use.
Yes. And I want to do farm dinners and have visiting chefs come and cook there. And I want there to be Thanksgiving in my barn. And I want beautiful retreats and writers retreats and cooking schools and mixology classes and, literally farm to table by walking from the garden, from my neighbor's sheep farm to the barn, to the table. And I want to share it generously, benevolently. I want people to feel welcomed and anticipated and celebrated every time they pull in my driveway.
Well, you have my name, you have my number. I'm ready. I'll be the first person in line.
I cannot wait to have you here.
Oh, just marvelous.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for your time. I have loved this conversation, and I'm so excited that it's not our last.
It's been brilliant, and thank you for being so inspiring and uplifting. And I'm going to go into the day just feeling so good.
Hooray. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey friends, I am so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for coming back, for being just a faithful, kind listener to these beautiful conversations week after week. Thank you for the delightful, lovely emails and DMs that you send me, or sometimes when I actually get to see you in person and you tell me that you listen to every episode. Oh my gosh, you're not even my mom, and you do that. It's so lovely. Thank you. If you saw my post from last week about one of our dear listeners, cute Judy Fox, who was visiting family from Kentucky and looked on Google Maps and figured out how close she was to the Phineas Wright house, and then sent me a message saying that she wanted to come over. I cannot even tell you how thrilled and how much that experience just completely filled my heart. Now, her original ask was if she could drive by my house and leave a note in my mailbox, which, how darling is that? And as you also know, simply will not do. So I told her, yes, she could drive to my house, but that she would not stop at the mailbox, but she would drive down the driveway and knock on my door and come inside and have tea. And I was as excited as I am right now telling you the story. That is all of the enthusiasm that was coming out of my finger as I was tapping this message to her. And she believed me. She came. I love that so much. And I am just extending that invitation to you as well. If you find yourself near the Phineas Wright house, you just come on over here. And if you need more planning, I would love, love, love to have you come do a farm stay. You know, the time that I spent with Judy was too short. She wasn't even here an hour. The time that we spent on these beautiful conversations in this podcast, equally too short. I find that every time when I'm trying to wrap that up, and even as I'm trying to share this information with you now, it's just not enough time, and I need you all to myself for longer. So please, please do both of us a favor and come hang out. I would love to have you do a farm stay at the bed and breakfast. You can have that be something that you design yourself. If you're just wanting to be quiet, you want to explore on your own, whatever you desire, that is available. I can also curate a whole itinerary for you, and we can spend those days together doing some wonderful New England specific good things. We can cook together, we can garden together, we can go look at these beautiful historic towns and shops and all these things that we've heard of in our American history books, but we can experience them together. So fun. There are details on the website, phineaswrighthouse.com, or you can message me and we'll have a conversation about what kind of getaway would just be a joy for you. And I am so excited to share this beautiful home with you and see what fabulous ideas we come up with together next. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Thanks again for being here. You're a treasure.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, Come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.